What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the Breakaway podcast. I'm obviously your host, Jon Root. One of my favorite stories I think I've heard recently is the Coach Kennedy case here out of the Supreme Court. I know for some of you that follow me on social media, you know that I was out there for Roe v. Wade. That's not sports content at all, but it was a wild experience. And I think it really set the stage for Coach Joe Kennedy's case. He was a coach that was privately praying at the 50-yard line at the high school, was just utilizing his religious liberty, and then it turned into an absolute storm. And it seems like right now a lot of Christianity is under attack. If you know me, I'm a Christ follower. I'm a Christian myself, and we've heard a lot about kneeling, but this kneeling case is a little bit different. This is not about Colin Kaepernick. This is not about other sports leagues like the NBA kneeling for the anthem. This is about a coach exercising his religious liberty. And now we're going to be joined by Coach Joe Kennedy and Stephanie Taub, that's a part of the First Liberty Institute legal team. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you for having us on.
Well, I really appreciate you guys spending the time. And we're going to start with you, Coach. I mean, you were a Marine veteran, so you've been used to battles, you've been used to wars, you've been used to preparing for an opposition. How did you prepare for this situation here, and give us a little bit more of the details, because this was about a 7-year process that you were going through.
Yeah, I've prepared my whole life, and I didn't understand. I always thought I was preparing for physical battles. When I was a kid, I was growing up on the streets and stuff, and in and out of group homes, foster homes, and boys' homes and stuff like that. So you got to kind of be on the tougher side. And then I went into the Marines, like you said, and I spent 20 years fighting for supporting the Constitution of the United States. And little did I know why all this has happened is because God called me to fight this war. I had no idea that this was coming, but nobody could ever prepare me for, like you said, 7 years of just waiting around for my lawyers to get done with what they're doing.
And I think the crazy part about all this too, I know I mentioned it before, is you have so many people that encourage student athletes, whether they're in high school or junior high, college, and then we definitely have seen it in professional sports, to kneel for our flag, to kneel for some sort of racial reconciliation. And that's the reasoning behind all that. We don't need to get into that. But when you see kneeling after a game in solitude, and completely voluntary for any other student, staff member, anybody involved, it turns into this storm that, hey, don't push your beliefs on us. While we've had beliefs pushed on us, especially in sports, over the last few years, it just seems very hypocritical to me.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing for me is that Garfield High School, shout out to them up in Washington State. They're just across the water out by Seattle. They all took a knee, coaches and players, in protest, and they wrote a letter to actually defend me. They said the same rights that give us the right to take a knee in solitude and against everything that they were, protesting, is the same right that protects me for kneeling. So it was cool to see how that actually worked together, as the Constitution is meant to do.
And then, Stephanie, we're going to bring you in here. So from the legal perspective here, Coach Joe Kennedy brought you in and said, I need some legal counsel. It seems like my First Liberty is under attack. My religious freedom is under attack here. And all I'm doing is exercising my religious liberty. That's it. Tell us a little bit more about when Coach Kennedy reached out to you and how you decided to go about the case.
Absolutely. So when he reached out all those years ago, we contacted the school and we thought that this would be resolved in only a few weeks. And little did we know that it would go all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. And really in what is a landmark victory for religious liberty. So we didn't just protect the right of Coach to go to the 50-yard line and take a knee, but really send a message to school districts across the country that you can't treat religious speech as second-class speech. Teachers have a right to be people of faith. They shouldn't have to choose between their faith and becoming a public school teacher or a coach.
And then, Coach, going off of that, why do you feel like this was so important for religious freedom? Because obviously we saw Roe v. Wade get overturned, and a lot of people see that as big for religious circles. That's a major, maybe revival that's starting. They're protecting life. But now when we're just talking about religious freedom, why do you believe that this case, your case, was so monumental for that?
Well, I don't know about that, and I know Stephanie will be able to answer that. She's just chomping at the bit for that one. But just my part of that is that nobody should, like Stephanie said, nobody should have to worry about their faith, and the job that they love. So I was just doing it as, like I've always done in the Marines. We stand up and fight for what's right. I've always told my football team, hey, you keep fighting until the very end, until there's no time left on the clock. And I was just setting that example of, hey, my fight is not over yet. But, mine was just to get to that finish line. I didn't know it would take 7 years in the Supreme Court to do it, but it's just awesome to see that it has impacted so many people. I'm talking every American knows now that the First Amendment and their Constitution is well, and just it applies to every single person. So Stephanie, go ahead and knock that one out.
Well, absolutely. This opinion is so important because it gets to the root cause of why, for the past several decades, school districts so often discriminate against religion. There's been this impression out there that school district administrators have to scrub their campuses of anything that's even remotely religious. And that's not what the Constitution requires. The Constitution requires equality. And the Constitution makes it clear that school districts cannot go through and censor all religious speech because they've gone too far. And teachers and coaches have personal rights to expression. So if you have 30 seconds that you can take engaging in other kinds of personal expression, like taking a private phone call, then you can spend that 30 seconds in prayer.
But I think when people bring up religion, they're going to think about a multitude of faiths. But it seems like specifically Christianity or Catholicism is very much under attack right now. So I guarantee you, if Coach Kennedy, and I mean, I can't guarantee this, but at least just in my opinion, if he was bowing and praying towards Mecca, I don't think there would be anything that would be happening across the country. There wouldn't be a big court case. So why, from a legal perspective, do you feel like Christianity is specifically under attack, Stephanie?
Well, absolutely. The First Amendment protects freedom of religion for all faiths. And so we at First Liberty will defend the rights of everyone of all faiths to practice their beliefs. And so unfortunately, you're right, we do see quite a few attacks on people that are Christians. And I don't know exactly the root cause of that, but we're really hopeful that this case will clarify that school district administrators need to respect people of all faith traditions.
And Coach, bringing you back in here, it's been a long battle like we brought up, but it wasn't smooth. It wasn't just, oh, this took a long time and it was paperwork and we had to talk to this person and that person. The Ninth Circuit Court basically shut down this case in 2018, and then it had to get refiled again. And it's a massive battle, and it just reminds me of sports, where it seemed like, I love the meme where it's like, oh yeah, they had us in the first half. And then you guys kind of came out swinging. You said, we're not going to go down without a fight, and we're not going to go down without winning this thing.
Yeah, and that's the way that I've always looked at my football program, is that, it doesn't matter what the score is. You just give it your all until the end. And, setting that example was really huge for me, especially, after 7 years. It would have been so easy to just give up. And I'm telling you, there's times that I've even thought about it because, man, it's been tough. My wife, she was the HR director for the school district. So when all this started, she's the one who had to, go through all this stuff with me. So my kids went to the school, my team I had to lose, and they just couldn't understand why I just couldn't give in. And now they absolutely do. Now they see that, hey, you have to stand up for what's right. Even if it's not popular, even if you're going to take blows. Every Friday night I tell my guys, give it your all. I don't care. I don't want to hear you whining about how much it hurts or how tough it is. But I had to set that example. I couldn't just tell them to do it, It wasn't say as I do and do as I say kind of thing. I had to be setting that example by leadership.
I think there's an aspect of your story that a lot of people either aren't covering or just don't know about. When the district was coming down hard on you and telling you, we don't want to see any of this prayer, we don't want to see coaches, staff, any of the student athletes involved. And there was one game where you drove away from the field and didn't pray. but decided and felt convicted. I'm driving back to the field. I'm waiting for everybody to leave. I'm going to go to the 50-yard line and I'm going to pray. Tell us a little bit more about that moment.
Yeah, because I didn't want to get to school in trouble. I didn't want to get in trouble. I thought we could find a happy medium, like Stephanie was saying earlier. They thought it would be a few weeks. I thought it would be that week where everything would be fine and we could talk this all out. And so I gave a motivational speech because I thought, hey, I'll abide by the school rules and I'll just do my prayer after. Well, it turned into pandemonium, and it was just crazy. So I totally forgot about praying because everybody was on the football field. There was press, there was everybody else. And, I had to get my team off the field. So I drove everybody home. And like you said, I was on my way home and it was like, oh my God, I can't believe the whole reason I've been fighting here. And I just forgot to do it. And so, yeah, it was 11 o'clock at night. And I turned around, drove all the way back into town and took that knee by myself. And I had some moments where I was like, God, is this me or is this it's something that you're calling me to do? And he answered every one of my calls. So, man, I'm just so appreciative that he shows up when he needs to.
Stephanie, tell me if I'm wrong, but that next week, Coach Kennedy reached out to First Liberty for counsel. What was your guys' first thoughts? And did you really believe right off the bat that this could be one or that it would turn into a crazy storm that it turned into?
Well, we see these kinds of situations all the time. As I mentioned, there's so often school district officials think that they do have to censor all forms of speech, like Coach Kennedy's. And so for the last few games that were at issue, Coach waited to say his prayer until his teammates were engaged in the fight song. But the school district fired him anyway. So this school district thought that even being able to see him taking a knee in prayer was unconstitutional. And that was an extreme position. And so we've been fighting constantly to make sure that people like Coach are not subjected to this sort of treatment that he received.
Coach, I know you've gotten a lot of backlash and there's been a lot of media coverage, but at the same time, there's so much support. I think we live in a day and age where a lot of people will easily fill our DMs and they'll say, I support you, Coach, but I can't do this publicly. Like, what kind of support were you getting behind the scenes? Obviously, you had some other coaches and athletes from different schools that were supporting you. Tell us a little bit more about the support you got and maybe some support that stood above the rest.
Yeah, I'll start right at home. All the parents and all the football players 100% supported me. I challenged everybody, that what the other side was trying to make up, that people were forced and that's not what happened. And the only thing he wanted to do was just pray with the kids. And I was like, man, go talk to the kids. Go talk to our families, talk to our program. So that was all just nonsense. And everybody, all the families and all my team supported me 100%. That was awesome. The school district, there's so many people at the school district that supported me, yet their lawyers were forcing their hand at something. And then across, the community, they backed me up. People from all over the state have been calling, all over the United States, actually from all over the world. I get phone calls from overseas all the time. And, people are stationed abroad. Bobby Bowden, I got to talk to him before he passed. I mean, I got to, shake hands with all these football players, Chad Hennings and Steve Largent, and just give them a hug and of that support. It's been everybody. I get letters from little old ladies in Iowa. I mean, it's just amazing the support that, I don't care if, 5 or 6 people bash you and you get the trolls on the internet and stuff. I just tell them, hey, you got a problem with me? Come and meet me. I'll have lunch with anybody. Even Sports Illustrated took a couple shots at me, which I thought was kind of interesting. But, overall, I ignore all of those. Everybody has the right to their opinions, but the support has been incredible. And there's no way I could have done this myself. And this wasn't a victory for just me. I don't feel like I did this fight alone. It was everybody that I looked, right beside me that has stood up with me this whole entire time. It's been, good Lord, I started, coaching in 2008. That's a long time to coach and to be sitting on the bench like I have been and still have all that support. So, we did it. We won this thing. It was awesome.
Yeah, and I know it got me so excited. And anybody really of faith or anybody that's got any sort of religious foundation, they see something like this and they realize, faith is a huge part of my sports experience. And I know anybody that's of faith, you probably watched Tim Tebow. Tebowing was a huge thing. That was someone that kneeled on the field, and he didn't want to make it about him. He wanted to go off to the side. He's going to kneel, and he's going to give this game and his skills and everything up to the Lord. So tell us in your own words, Coach Kennedy, why is prayer and inviting God into your sport and your competition so important?
For me personally, it was where my strength and my center was. If I didn't believe in something, you'll fall for anything. I know you've heard that before. If you could be focused and grounded in something, think about those roots of how strong it could be. You look at your foundation, same thing on our team. If my front line is not, solid, we're going to crumble. So I could put every one of those metaphors into my personal life and in my spiritual life. God has been there, especially with my family going through all this. I mean, there is no way I could have done this without God's support, number one, obviously. If he was not the center of this, there's no way I would even still be here. But it just shows that how much I rely on him, my family relies on him, and he will come through. Obviously, it might take a little bit long to do it. It's never in my time, it's in his time. But man, he has been there every step of the way, and he got the victory. So, props to God. He's awesome.
One more question for each of you. Stephanie, I'll start with you. There's prayer that goes into a prayer case. So tell us about the prayers that you were praying at First Liberty while going through this 7-year process.
Well, we absolutely pray for God's favor in all of our cases. And we believe strongly that everyone's constitutional rights should be vindicated. Sometimes the court doesn't go our way and we have to trust God's will in that. But we sincerely believe that we need to give everything to God.
Finally, Coach Kennedy, give us an inside look at what your prayers were like when you started praying on the field all the way up to your final prayer at the 50-yard line. How did those change? How were you communicating with God? Because everybody's prayer life is different. I think.
Sure.
I hope when I go up to heaven, God kind of laughs at the way I prayed. Sometimes I'm like, "What's up, big man? It's great." I like, thank you for all the blessings. And you don't have to use all these big words and have this vernacular that seems like you're speaking in tongues. Like, you just need to be communicating with your Father. Tell us a little bit more about what those prayers looked like.
Yeah, when I first started, I was what people call a baby Christian or new to my faith, whatever you want to say. But I really just right out of the gate, I just found my faith and was getting embedded in the church and really finding my own faith. And then when God called me, it was just all thanks. When I watched Facing the Giants, and that was the calling of the answer to my call, because I got offered the job on that Friday, and I said, well, told the school district, give me the weekend. So I did a lot of praying over that weekend saying, is this something that you really want? And yeah, I saw that movie in the middle of the night and it was like an answered prayer. I just was so thankful. So when I first started praying on the football field, it was, God, I'm just giving the glory. Just no matter what happens, what those guys just did on the field was just awesome. And then when the kids said, hey, can we join you? Well, then it changed totally different. It became more motivational because I'm not a preachy guy. I don't know all the good Bible words and stuff. And it was basically just, like you see some of the pictures, it did go to 2 helmets where I'd hold up the opposing team and our team, and I'd say, Lord, thank you for these guys, these warriors who just fought for 48 minutes. They fought as warriors and enemies, and now they're brothers. And, I was winging it the whole time. Then when they told me to stop praying, then I had a couple really good prayers of, God, you better have me in this. You got to give me something to help me out with this because I'm way over my head. That's when First Liberty got involved. So he answered that one. And then it was, hey, thank you for this. I'm trusting you. And then when they fired me, I knew that my last prayer was going to be, and it was all alone on the football field. We got cool pictures of it. And it was just a moment where I was just thanking God for the opportunity and those 8 years that I got to coach, because I knew that that was going to be my last one for a while. And so it was a lot of thankfulness. And, sometimes it got motivational and crazy, like, man, God, that was awesome. Did you see how those guys kicked those guys' butts? I mean, I'm not a great prayer kind of guy, so I was winging it a lot like you.
And I think that's what's beautiful about prayer. And I think God can just appreciate some sort of communication there. And especially too that, you're not just praying for wins. You're not praying for just success for yourself. You're praying for the other team, the people in the stands, everybody that's in Washington State. I'm sure that started really opening up your mind. And, this isn't just about my high school. This isn't just about me and my team. This is about God as a whole in our nation. And I think it was an absolutely incredible thing to happen to see this court case won. And especially boom, it was amazing.
Yeah, it was so cool. And then, some things got overshadowed a little bit at first, like what you said earlier about Tebow, maybe I subconsciously hey, that's what I'm going to do. And on the 50, well, then Kaepernick went and stole it. Like you said, he stole that from me. So yeah, it's just cool to see how God has just woken up America and really has just amazed me and basically amazed everybody in America that, hey, that's what the Constitution's about. And that's what our faith is about is, just never giving up.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way to finish this out is the Constitution is something that is a bedrock of our country. Other countries don't have this. They don't have religious liberty. They don't have all these women's rights and human rights that we have here in this country. And then whether you're a Christian or not, you pray to the God of the Bible or not, you have to appreciate that you have that religious liberty and you have that religious freedom. And hopefully they look at your case, no matter where they are in this faith spectrum, and realize this was a huge win for America. And again, congratulations to you two. First Liberty did an incredible job. Coach Kennedy, I hope that this makes a huge difference, not just now, but for generations to come. Who knows? There could be another coach or athlete, whether they're in high school, college, or professional. It might lead them to have a little bit more communication with God and start exploring that. So congratulations. Really appreciate you guys
be bold in your faith, brother. I love it.
Amen. Thank you guys.